Hello, St. Joan of Arc families. Today we're celebrating the Feast of All Souls, when we take some time together to think with love about those who have gone before. And this brings up our question. Let's read it together.
How can we remember those we love who have died?
Our readings today focus on death and eternal life. In our first reading, Paul tells us that nothing, not even death, can separate us from God's love. God will be there for us, always, and God's promise comes to life in Jesus' death and resurrection. In the Gospel, Jesus uses the example of a seed, which must be buried in the ground in order to bear fruit. Only when it is buried will the seed be able to grow into what God meant it to be. Jesus himself was the living example of this for us. Only by dying could he show us the way to new life. Jesus is comforting us here, telling us that death is not our enemy. It's the way through which we become the people God meant us to be. This doesn't mean our bodies have to die in order to follow God, but we have to be willing to give up our lives for others. We are called to serve our families and our communities, helping those most in need among us. On this Feast of All Souls, when we think of everlasting life, we remember those we love who have died. Lots of cultures believe that this is the time of year when the veil or the curtain between the worlds of the living and the dead is the thinnest. Since now our beloved dead are nearest to us, this is the best time to connect with our friends and family who have died. We'll start our celebration with a story by Barbara Josie and illustrated by Giselle Potter, called Ghost Wings, about love and remembering and butterflies. Our reader is Richard Dodson.
There is a place in the Mexican forest where the monarch butterflies go. In the autumn, millions arrive to rest in fir trees, sip from nectaring plants, and fan their wings in the sun. In the spring, they begin their journey north. This place is called the Magic Circle. I remember the day the butterflies left. They were the color of the sun setting on the mountains. They filled the trees with gold, so many they made the boughs bend. When they flew away, their wings rustled like skirts. That was the day my grandmother died. Grandmother was my best friend. When we made tortillas, we sang our favorite songs. Grandmother worked the dough on a big metate, pushing and mashing till it didn't have any lumps. I had a little metate right next to hers. When the tortillas were ready, we cooked them side by side. At night, Mama tucked me into bed. But I heard monsters slithering on the floor in my dreams. They snapped their teeth and hissed my name. I pulled the covers up to my chin, but still the monsters slithered and snapped. I cried out to Papa. He said, "You must be brave." I called to Mama. She said, "Nonsense, there are no monsters." But Grandmother leaned her broom against my bed and laid beside me, smelling of cornmeal and roses. "If the monsters dare to come," she said, I'll chase them away with my broom. With grandmother next to me, no monsters came to my dreams. In winter, grandmother and I loved to visit the magic circle. We sat on the forest floor and let the butterflies cover us with gold. We let them fan their wings on our shoulders and tickle our arms with their legs. One spring, grandmother became thin as smoke. She didn't make tortillas. She was too tired. She said, "It's almost time for the butterflies to leave. Come with me to the magic circle, and we'll say goodbye." It was a cloudy day, and the butterflies clung to the trees. Their wings were closed, and they were still as stone. One butterfly lay on the forest floor. I picked him up and blew warm breath on him. He shook his wings and flew away. "Close your eyes," grandmother said. "Do you still feel the butterfly?" I nodded. My arm still tickled. "That's because they carry the souls of the old ones, and the old ones never really leave." Then the sun came out. The butterflies rose in a whoosh. They filled the sky with gold. In a few weeks, all the butterflies were gone. The magic circle was empty. That was the day grandmother died. Papa took me to the magic circle and we cried together. He said when you love someone, they never really leave. But the butterflies were gone. He said the butterflies would come back, that they always came back. But my arm didn't feel the tickle anymore. The time of the roses passed and became the time of the marigolds. This was the season for Days of the Dead, the time to remember the old ones. At the market, we bought candles and pan de los muertos with sugar bones on top. Mama chose a bag of oranges, and I bought a little skull made of chocolate and sugar. After lunch, Papa set up an ofrenda, or altar. On it, Mama put candles, oranges, and grandmother's picture. I leaned her broom against the altar and spread rose petals and cornmeal on top. When the day was almost gone, the light became thin as smoke. Mama lit the candles, and their flames shook the shadows from the room. Papa said, "I remember, grandmother." Mama said, "I remember that she taught me how to cook." I tried to remember grandmother too, but she seemed far away. All night the candles flickered on the ofrenda. I smelled roses and cornmeal as I went to sleep. In the morning we walked to the cemetery. All the neighbors were there. We cleaned up the graves of the old ones. I spread flowers over grandmother's grave and ate my chocolate and sugar skull. The neighbors filled the cemetery with picnic baskets and flowers, stories, music, and noise. One man sang grandmother's favorite song. There was a tiny flicker in the sky. It was a butterfly. Soon the tombs and crosses were covered with flickering gold. One of the butterflies landed on my arm. It fanned the sun with its wings and tickled my arm with its legs. I said, "I remember that grandmother was brave. She chased monsters with her broom. I remember how she smelled like cornmeal and roses. She sang songs and made tortillas, and when she took me to the magic circle, it really was full of magic. the butterfly shook its wings and flew away. I closed my eyes. I could still feel the tickle. In my head I heard grandmother's song. I smelled roses and cornmeal. Now I remembered grandmother. I could feel her in my heart.
In our story, grandmother says that butterflies carry the souls of the old ones, and the old ones never really leave. When the girl is able to remember her beloved grandmother, she can once again feel her grandmother beside her. Because when the living remember those who have gone before with joy and love, the spirits of the dead remain with us, a part of the living. In parts of Latin America, All Souls' Day is called Day of the Dead, and it's a time to celebrate those who have gone before by coming together as a community to remember them, sharing their stories and speaking their names with love. And in the process, feeling, or knowing, that they are still among us. Over the last weeks, many of you recorded yourselves saying the names of your beloved dead. We're now going to share their names as a community. If you weren't able to send us the names of your loved ones, please hold them in your heart during this time. Let's remember them together.
Great-grandpa Marvin and my grandma's dog Pokey.
Mariuccia Sanguinetti, zio Angelo.
Margie Garrity and Ida Mae Young.
Ellen and James Stewart, and Mary Lou and John Tokar.
Luis Carlos Rodrigues.
Pai.
Seu Luís.
Vovô Mano.
Katie Vadoin, Walter Vadoin, Catherine Benson, Honey Perling, Angela Hannon, Bradley Mott, Roger Perrin, Victoria Perrin, Larry Osborne, Mary Osborne, and Jeff Morton.
Mariangela Vaggi, Adele Rossi.
Raffaele Sanguinetti, Aurelio Grenghi.
Talat Dashgard, Ferishte Shadfar.
Leonardo Rossi, Gina Acatino.
David Velasquez.
Yolanda Martinez. Great-grandma Eileen, great-grandma Winnie, great-aunt Belly, great-grandma Marie,
Clarence Swartzoff and Robert Boyd Sr.
Richard Stevenson,
Uncle Louie,
Louise Dane, Ralph Dane,
Sue Dodson, Don Summers,
Teresa Mossett, Joe Mossett, Linnell Timpey, Wally Timpey,
Grampy Jim Farrell,
Jude Rasmus, Georgine Singleton, Carrie Clark,
Riley, Penelope,
Jim,
Zachary,
Uncle Seaver,
Grandpa Terry, Joanne Berg,
Matt Lust,
Grandma Helen,
and Grandpa Gene,
Ruth Ann Lyons,
Catherine Ann Portlanger,
Russell Jean Bell,
Father Tom Carapella, T.O.R.,
Jennifer Jones,
Brigida Muñoz, Irene Palacios,
Carlos Galvan,
Chole,
Norberto Romero, Agapito Galvan,
Zane Justice, Dave Warner,
Bonnie Sandgren, Judy Newport, banjo,
Al Eisel, John Barty,
Tom Hines, Diane Norman,
Tucker Hellstrom, Dante Wright,
Barry Dupuy, Merritt Dupuy,
Gilma Master, George Floyd.
Will the circle be unbroken by and by, long, by and by? Hold our families close within it, in the sky, Lord, in the sky. Will the circle be unbroken by and by? Lord, by and by. Hold our families close within it, in the sky, Lord, in the sky.
Happy Feast of All Souls.